And Illinois keeps on dancing as they are headed to the Sweet 16 after dominating VCU 76-55. Illinois fans, it's been a long time coming. Made it to the second weekend a couple years ago. Made it to the second weekend in 2005, and it's been a long time that we've been able to say we can be a consistent team in the second weekend. Huge game from Andrei Stojakovic, scores 21 points. Really just took it to VCU. Tommy looked a lot better today. Kylan made some plays. You just really were able to put it together as a team defensively. Big Z, I know we only had 2 points on that dunk, but it felt like he was all over the place. And honestly, I just felt like you were able to establish yourself at the beginning defensively and hit some shots. And VCU just really wasn't able to make a comeback because the way you were able to own the paint on the offensive end, the defensive end, really the only reason VCU was able to keep it close and tie it up and even take a small lead was because you wouldn't stop turning the ball over. You had 11 turnovers. You average about 8 on the season, and you had 11 turnovers. But only 3 in the second half, I believe. Andrei Stojakovic is really the point of the game to me besides the defense, because he was really able to get to the rim whenever he wanted. Defensively, he held VCU to 55 points on 22% from 3, 35% from the field. Unfortunately, they lost one of their better players really early with a nasty ankle injury. Hopefully he's okay for the future, but you're able to hold Hill to 17 points on 7 for 16 from the field. So really able to put a lot of pressure on him. Felt like VCU was just hitting some crazy shots, and that was the main reason that they were hanging around. And then you were turning the ball over and not taking care of business. Thankfully, the last couple games, you've really been able to take that punch from the other team and then come back and provide another punch of your own. Whereas there was a stretch like against UCLA, in a handful of other games this year, really the last couple months, where the other team punched back and you blew a big, Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament, up 15, just like that. And Wisconsin was tying up the game and taking the lead. And you did do that essentially today, but you were able to regain it and then end up winning by 21 points. The spread, I think, closed at 11.5, maybe 12.5. So you easily covered. And Illinois is going to take on Houston on Thursday. TBD on the time yet, I believe. But just want to walk through some of these stats here. As an Illinois fan, and maybe you guys can relate, send in your comments, questions, things like that. How are you feeling? It is 11:11 Central Time, so couple hours or so after the win. As an Illinois fan, the second weekend was, for me, after this, like seeing this team, obviously seeing this team earlier in the season take down some of these bigger teams and how well Keaton was playing, the second weekend really felt like that was the bar. So anything past the second weekend, I felt like you were capable of, but I felt like if this team didn't make it to the second weekend, it would have been underachieving. Whereas last year and then the Matthew Meyer team a few years ago, felt like those teams didn't really deserve the second weekend. So if you would have made it, it would have been great if things would have fell your way. And last year, you still had a chance to make the second weekend if you would have just played better against Kentucky. But this team really felt like the second weekend was the minimum, was the minimum standard. And they did that. Props to them. We got a great draw. Now this tournament, really, Texas, I think, is like the only double-digit seed to make it to the Sweet 16. I'd have to double check that, but you took care of business. and we're not going to say sorry. It's really like the basketball gods are really on our side after you get Loyola Chicago, who had no business being an 8 seed a few years ago, and then you get Houston, who had no business being a 5 seed. Now, 2 years ago, we get Duquesne to advance to the Sweet 16. And this year we get a VCU team that wouldn't have been in the tournament if they didn't win their conference. Now, you still have to take care of business. I mean, Wisconsin didn't take care of business and they immediately lost. There's a handful of other teams that didn't take care of business. Shout out to Nebraska. They took down Vanderbilt. Crazy ending to that game. But Big Ten's looking pretty good right now. You lost Ohio State and you lost Wisconsin, obviously, but Michigan blew out St. Louis today. Michigan State held on against Louisville. We'll see how Iowa looks tomorrow. Illinois obviously won. Nebraska, big win for them. So really, it's a year of the Big Ten right now. Tomorrow you have Purdue as well. Purdue's got to take on Miami, and like I said, Iowa. And I know the Big Ten's so big now; it's not really I don't really root for the Big Ten as much as I used to. I like to keep up with the Big Ten and keep up with Illinois' conference, and it's fun that we have a lot of bigger brands in the conference now. And man, it's just so great. I'm gonna be riding this high for 4 or 5 days, like wearing all my Illini stuff, which I already do. But it's just gonna be like, hey, we're one of 16 fan bases in college basketball that can have swag for at least 4 or 5 days. And that's just an amazing, amazing feeling. So again, the basketball gods, it really feels like 2 of the last 3 tournaments have blessed you. You know, it's a weird karma thing that, like I said, you got Loyola Chicago, which really threw you off for a while, and then you got Houston a few years ago, and now you've been rewarded with Duquesne and VCU here. But Illinois deserved it, right? I mean, I'm flying high right now. I feel like a weight has been completely lifted because now it's just house money. Just go play well against Houston, put up a fight. Houston's a great team. They've absolutely obliterated their first 2 opponents like a 2 seed should. They're the best 2 seed in the dance. They're going to be tough. They have some solid veterans, and then Flemings, who has been playing better than Keaton has as of late. And Keaton played a lot better in the second half tonight. But I think at minimum, you got to keep it close. I look, the spread is -2.5. So you're only a 2.5 point favorite. And it's basically in Houston. It is in Houston, but I'm saying it's basically a home game for Houston, which is just unreal. Again, Merck didn't have the greatest tonight. Ended up with 7 points, 5 boards. Let's see, 4 assists. He had 3 turnovers. It almost felt like more. Again, the only reason VCU was in this game was because he literally would not stop turning the ball over for a stretch there. Jake Davis only took 1 shot, but hit it 14 minutes, 3 rebounds. Brad does not seem to want to get away from him being in the starting lineup, which, hey, it's easy to say now. Tommy is also the biggest takeaway besides Andre and the defense, because 14 and 11, I know it's like VCU didn't have a bunch of paint presence, but there's been so many games this year where Tommy should have eaten on the glass and he didn't. And 2 for 5 from 3, got some points down low, really was just active defensively. And that, I mean, you built this team around Tommy. You built this team thinking Tommy was going to be like your best or one of your best players. So that's a huge, huge sign, good sign for Illinois as they go to take on Houston. Andre, 21 points, 7 of 12 from the field. Missed both his threes, but he looked confident. 7 or 9 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. That's the Andre you needed. I mean, if Andre can lift you to an Elite Eight or a Final Four, all the money was worth it. Whatever you actually paid him, there's rumors out there all the money was actually worth it if that's what he ended up, if that's what he ends up doing. If he doesn't have the greatest regular season, but he helps you get to the Final Four, then awesome. Now I think he's not gonna be able to get to the rim as easily against Houston, and then if you win Florida, but that's an awesome performance, and he really just took over the game. Big Z again. He only had 2 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block, but it felt like he just made so much more of an impact because his dunk and his block were so momentum changing. Which VCU's coach getting a tech right there was not helpful for them at all. That was very frustrating if I was a VCU fan because that really just gave Illinois even more momentum. 2 games in a row, you're shooting pretty well from 3, 38% as a team. I'll take that for sure. 48% from the field's not bad. Free throws, 11-17. That's not ideal. That's one thing. Luckily, we didn't have to worry about tonight, but you came in and took care of business. You did what you should. Give Brad tons of credit, had the guys ready to go. And Underwood is really starting to flip the script. This coaching staff is really starting to flip the script. I know that's dramatic. Okay. 2 games against teams that you should have beaten, obviously, easily. But I would say that this is 2 games in a row that Brad can add to his resume of played well in the tournament. Obviously, Drexel, whatever, they were a 16 seed, you were a 1 seed, and that was a weird tournament game. Well, even if you say you give Brad that one, that's one good game. Loyola was bad. The Arkansas game was bad. Then you have the Elite Eight run, which was like 2.5, 3 great games. 3.5 great games. So, and then last year you played well against Xavier. So it was almost like you were like 500 in good games and bad games with Brad in the tournament. And outside of like a few minutes in each game, on Thursday night and tonight, you just dominated the other team like you're supposed to. And not every team can say that. I mean, Wisconsin lost. Virginia almost lost to Wright State the other night. Gonzaga lost. Like, some of these teams just did not take care of business, and you did. So can't complain about the draw that we got. And again, give Brad credit. It's the more games like this that he's supposed to play well and that this team doesn't play with like attention, I think it'll just make Illinois fans feel way better. Michael is excited for Thursday. Michael, I'm going to keep my eye out and see what the time is because I don't think the time has come out. So if anybody sees what the time of the game is for Thursday, let me know. I might be wrong and it might not come out until like tomorrow night. But again, Houston is a 2.5 point favorite as of now, and that game is in Houston at the Toyota Center. So it's basically a road game, which I like. This team has played on the road way better this year. So Kingston Flemings is their leading scorer at 16.4 points per game. We'll get back on here midweek and do a breakdown, but yeah, they got a bunch of studs. I know Sharp is still there. He's a baller. He was on the runner-up team last year. And sorry, I got to get a drink of water here. Emmanuel Sharp. I forgot his last name or his first name. But Tennessee's going to be a wagon. I know, again, they're not as amazing defensively, but the over-under is literally 140.5, which I would imagine is one of Illinois' lowest totals of the season. Because let's see, we just put up, well, I guess tonight wasn't that high scoring because the defense was so great, but I mean, the Penn game was 175. The Wisconsin game was almost 180. The Maryland game was 150. Yeah, so that is a very low over-under for this Illinois team. Yeah, so it's an amazing feeling. It's a great Great way to spend the next 4 or 5 days. The defense was awesome. Gonna get into some of these highlights here and break down some of the plays, some of the things we saw after I can get something to play here. Andre's poster was awesome. That was an amazing dunk he had. And then Big Z's poster was obviously even better. But yeah, this team just came out and dominated, which I really loved. And the refs were I haven't mentioned that. The refs were so bad in the first half. Like so bad. And I'm sure a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's get these off of there. So Tommy comes out of the gate just playing really well, playing really aggressive. And that was noticeable from the start. Merck was a little all over the place, as you can see at that play right there. That was pretty consistent throughout the game for him. Felt like VCU was making some crazy shots too. Shout out to March Madness for putting out these highlights. Jake Davis, his only shot of the game, he made it. Obviously, great for him. Good working the glass. Merck, you came out great. You came out super hot. Tommy forgot he was that athletic. That was a crazy athletic play. This team can go as far as their defense will take them because their offense can score with anybody, but it's like how many stops can you get against really good top teams? You're going to have another shot on Thursday. That's my biggest concern is that this team has not shown it against top teams that they can play consistently on the defensive side and not go on sloppy stretches. But let's hope that's different, and let's hope you get the January Illinois team and not the second half of February, March Illinois team. Yeah, you came out defensively so hot. Andre with the swat. Hill was really struggling at first. He ended up getting some shots. You gave VCU life, but nothing was easy for them. The refs were just ridiculous, calling everything. But then they weren't all of a sudden, like halfway through the first half, and we were just getting hacked nonstop, and they weren't calling it. Let's see, where'd my camera go? There we go. Yeah, you just could not stop turning the ball over. That dunk was insane. Props to whoever that was, but that was a crazy dunk. This game was full of crazy dunks. Tommy with a big three there. That's great to see Tommy get going. Again, I know I've said this. And if you're joining us, this is Illini Isaac, the Champagne Room Recap. We're live here on Facebook. We go live almost every game, just breaking things down, and obviously had to get on here, even though it's pretty late. But Tommy hitting that three, and Tommy's impact on the glass and just active defensively, active with rebounds and things was just so noticeable. Yeah, Keaton was honestly a net negative in the first half. You hope that he can just play a full 40 minutes. It's gonna be tough on Thursday against Houston, because I know he is gonna be tempted to just force things, and I'm sure Houston's gonna be happy forcing things and allowing him to do whatever they want, or allowing him to take deep threes and things like that. There's been a few times where Keaton's fallen in love with the deep threes, but honestly can't blame him because for so much of the season they were going in. Yeah, I can't believe VCU took the lead. That was crazy. That is crazy. Only the second time since 2005 Illinois is going to the Sweet 16. Can we please make this just a consistent thing where every year we're just banking on the Sweet 16? So here's where things really started to get fun. Keaton with that step back three, so lethal with. VCU really just got put in a blender. I mean, that the defense at times, again, VCU is not amazing, but at times your defense was just so swarming. I mean, you just took them to the woodshed. They hit some tough shots though. Props to VCU. Tommy's the 5th player in program history, according to Illini men's basketball account. Tommy is the 5th player in program history with multiple double-doubles in the NCAA tournament. It's pretty good company. Also, shout out to the Illini women. They won tonight against Colorado. So, yes, it's going to be an amazing week. It's going to be an absolute blast just bragging at work all week. Not gonna lie, I had my doubts about this team. Again, I wasn't expecting to get a draw like this, but credit to where credit is due. This team played better, played the best that they've played the last 2 games. They played the best they've played in a couple months, month or two. Man, this was so fun. Like Z took off from so far away and he threw it down so aggressively that it almost didn't look like it went in. Like it felt like he just swiped at the net or something. But man, that was awesome. Seeing Tommy's reaction too on the bench. That was just an absolute blast. Looks like there was a ton of Illinois fans there as well. Send in your comments, send in your questions. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Michael's excited for Thursday. Let us know how you feel after that win, after the Illinois advances to the second Sweet 16 since 2005, which is so hard to believe. Yeah, VCU tried to make a little bit of a run there, but you responded. Keaton had some really tough buckets in there that were awesome. And you took care of business. Hill hit some crazy deep shots. But they started to turn it over. You started to force some turnovers, which you don't normally do. I think you're one of the least turnover forcing teams in the country. But you kept getting offensive boards and did what you should do against a team like that. Yeah, Ben with the active hands. Andre has hops. I know Illinois fans know that, but the national people might not know that. He actually can get up. Tommy, great to see him knocking down some more threes. Your switches were just so good tonight, too. It felt like VCU had no time to think a lot of times, which has just not been the case. Maybe really getting out of the Big Ten was super helpful for this team. I'm looking forward to sleeping on this, looking more into Houston. Again, I know Houston's really good. They absolutely dominated their teams. Let's see. They beat who did they beat? They murdered Texas A&M today. They're 30-6. They murdered Idaho, murdered Texas A&M. They lost 3 straight in February, but it was at Iowa State, Arizona at home, at Kansas, and then Arizona in the tournament, in the Big 12 tournament. Yeah, Merck, not his best game, but still wasn't a complete dud of a game. So that's really good to see. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do with what Houston does with Merck and how him and Keaton respond because they're gonna have to be super wise and make the right decisions. And yeah, Andre just got whatever he wanted tonight, which was so awesome to see. When the Keaton Tommy pick and roll stuff up top is clicking, it's awesome. And Ben seems to love like the neck to the or the foot to the throat three-pointers because I feel like he always hits late threes when, like, the team can't come back, but we're just adding to our shooting percentage. And the fact that you got AJ Red in that game is just crazy. So, again, give this team ton of credit. That was an awesome win, and we're not going to apologize for the draw because you never know what you're gonna get in March, and this team responded. I wouldn't say all my fears are eliminated because I still want to see it against Houston, but just come out and compete and keep it a game. Again, Vegas obviously thinks they're only giving Houston 2.5 points and they're basically at home. So let's look into this Houston team. Again, they lost to Arizona in the Big 12 tournament, but they had a big stretch of wins there. And then in February, they had 3 straight losses. So they lost at Texas Tech, a team you beat. So that's kind of encouraging. That was back in January. And then they lost to Iowa State, Arizona, and Kansas. So they're clearly beatable. I do think they're the best 2 seed. And when they're at their best, they are just menacing defensively. Talk about a team that took care of business. They won by 31 in the first round, which they were playing Idaho, a 15 seed. Then they won by 31 again against Texas A&M, and that game was like 20-24 at one point. I was watching. Sharp had 8 teams, Sanak had 9, Uzan had 4. So yeah, it's gonna be an absolute battle. I'm looking forward to looking into the game. Illini fans never take this for granted because we never know how many Sweet 16s we're gonna get. ILL, man, it's a great time to be an Illini. This team still has flaws. I think it's easy to say. And when you hear somebody say this tournament's all about matchups, this is your perfect example because Illinois just had the size to attack these teams the last 2 nights, and some other teams don't. Like Wisconsin might have struggled with these teams because Wisconsin doesn't dominate people inside. They dominate with their guards and they score. And I know that's easy to say now because Wisconsin lost. It's easy to think, oh, they wouldn't have done that. But yeah, it feels good. It feels good to be in the second weekend. I'm sure Brad and the staff and anybody that's been there is feeling great too, even though they won't admit it. Got some of the pressure off their backs, and in Illinois fans, it's a good time to be an Illini. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy wearing your Illinois stuff the next few days, bragging to whoever your friend. Unfortunately, I can't really do much bragging because I'm up in Michigan, and Michigan State is also in the Sweet 16. So yeah, it's been a fun tournament. It's been a lot of chalk, but let's see what Illinois can do on Thursday. We'll see if we get a time here soon, probably tomorrow. But ILL, this is Champagne Room Recap. Isaac signing off, Illini Isaac, and we will chat with you soon.